Welcome to the Can Be Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Castle. I am fired up. I am totally excited and inspired by conversations of what life created by you through your thoughts looks like. I named this show the Can Be Podcast because I truly believe that you can be anybody you choose to be. You can be whatever it is in life that you want to be. It's a decision, and it's as simple as a decision to change your thoughts, because those thoughts then can change your life. I have a guest, Terri Malek, who is a dear friend of mine and a spiritual guide. She's got an incredible story to share with you, a near-death experience just a couple of years ago, and what it's taught her in the art of being. What does that really, truly mean to her? All right, so Terri, you and I had a brief conversation before we actually did this recording, and I know that you've got some great information to share, and I've got a lot of curiosity about the conversation. And so if you don't mind, I'm going to ask some questions as we go, because I'm excited about the learning experience that I am about to have, and our listeners too.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. So you and I had talked a couple of episodes ago, and we were talking about your adventures and just, where life has taken you. But I know you've received some information, and you've got some, you just jump into the reason you reached out to me and said, hey, let's do this again. I've got some more information for everybody.
I jumped in enthusiastically before I thought through it. And so I'm very excited to be here. It was one of those just following the guidance of intuition. And so I'm excited to be here to have this conversation again.
So what is it? Go ahead and jump in to tell us, what have you, I know that you just got back from the coast, and that was a short trip for you, but you spent a lot of time by the water, feet in the sand. I saw your toes in the sand, and you're kicking the water around, and you and your husband did all kind of things in nature, as you guys do often. And then just being in a place of receivership.
Absolutely. It was, we travel full time, majority of the time, I should say, probably 9 months out of the year we're traveling. And so many people think, oh my gosh, they're always on vacation. And I have to, I don't have to, but I choose to explain to them, well, it's our lifestyle. We still work full time on the road. In fact, we work, the ways we approach work, can offer more challenges and so forth. So I literally claimed this as a vacation. I said, I want a vacation. I need some time, sun, salt, sand, sea, all of that. And it was fantastic. We didn't have the best weather. It is winter, but we did have a couple of really beautiful days. But it was wonderful, and it was a great reset. And I actually got to spend my birthday there, and I did that. It's kind of a tradition I started a few years ago. I like to spend my January birthday at the beach, because it's you at least get some warmth and so forth.
And it's probably not water and sun is probably not the way you had celebrated your birthday in the past.
It wasn't until, actually my 50th birthday was my first year of saying, I am celebrating at the beach. And I think I've only missed a year in there, but yes. So we're normally in forest and mountains, and we're in a desert. We're in very different terrains. So I like to have that reset once a year. So I've had, oh my goodness, where do I start? I felt the call to talk about an experience, but not so much the details or depth of the experience, but what has resulted from the experience. that I had. It's been almost 3 years ago. So on the note of the coast, it's a great lead in. I just turned 53. So I had my 50th birthday.
That's what I was going to say. You're not much over 50. You and I are about the same age. So
yeah, I made it sound like there had been years of doing this tradition. It's a new tradition. So this would have been the 4th year, because we went my 50th, and then we went to the coast right after. I had a big 50th birthday party a friend threw for me, and all of that. And then we went to the coast right after. So I got to spend quite a bit of time there. And so we came back to North Texas, our home base, and we were packing up and getting ready for our next longer adventure. And I was working at my office at the time, where my office was located in downtown Denison. And I was doing a live with a lot of people on the live, and they were international. And the next thing I know, I'm in pretty extreme physical duress. And I was breathing through it, and I was actually using it as teaching opportunities. Okay, here's a way we can breathe through. And I was just flowing with it. And at the end of the call, I went to stand up to load up my computer and everything. And my husband was coming to pick me up later, but I had a meeting right after with a colleague at my office. And the next thing I know, I can't stand, I can't walk. I am completely crippled, incapacitated, on the floor. And I kept trying to just be lighthearted about it and breathe through it. And wow. And now flashback, I had an experience in 2018, and I had the same experience. It just resulted differently. So I had a intuitive knowing of what it was, but I refused to allow that to be what it was. I thought, absolutely not. I've done the healing through that. We're not going there.
I'm not accepting that to be
true. We're not accepting that. So I texted my husband. He was on a photo shoot. I texted the lady. I'm on the floor with my phone, and I texted the lady I had a meeting with, who happened to already be there. And she came to check on me and saw the position I was in and was concerned. And so between her and my husband, we got me packed up and in the truck. He had to carry me. And so flash forward, I ended up in the hospital in ICU. And I remember him taking me back. We were in our RV staying with some friends, but I was in the RV Tim was helping me change into pajamas, something more comfortable, get out of work clothes, basically. And all these people start showing up inside my RV that are friends that either are on the property, friends that I had I had contacted, ended up there, and they all decided, you have to go to the ER. And I knew it and didn't want to accept it, but I did. So they were wheeling me into ER, and they started asking me all these questions, do you have a doctor? Who's your doctor? All these things. And I said, everything's in my file. You'll have to look it up. I need something now for this pain. And by the way, I was also, purging the whole time, nonstop. So it was extreme pain.
Because the pain was so bad.
Yes, the pain was so bad. I was constantly being sick, and the whole way to the hospital and everything. So anyway, that's the last statement I remember making for 6 days. I was in an unconscious state for 6 full days, over hour-wise, a little over 6 days. And I was unconscious for about a day and a half before my first surgery. I had 2 surgeries. And people say that I was having conversation. Apparently, I signed the dotted line for surgery. I have no recall. So my unconsciousness was for over 6 full days. Whereas I ended up in a coma, and that didn't start for another, day and a half. So apparently I was sitting, I was having conversation. But so many stories have been shared with me by others of what happened through this whole time frame. And without going into great detail of what my experiences were in that coma, that's really not so much what I want to talk about, but I want to allude to a little bit of it. I had my whole life, I've been highly, highly, highly intuitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I've known it my whole life, and I've just been able to honor as I've grown and expanded, and developed more into these abilities, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I just honor and trust them very strongly at this point in my journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've always gotten what people would call premonitions or insights and so forth. The entire experience, I had what I call a simulation. I was not seeing the beautiful bright light.
Mm-hmm.
I was not in a heavenly realm in my conscious awareness. Now, other people have shared stories that they had with me that were absolutely divinely beautiful. But in my recall and my conscious awareness, I was being given, like a movie, I was communicating telepathically with this very, I'll just call it, they claim to be like this power that be,
Mm-hmm.
and all these worldly events that were going to happen. And within 2 days of me waking up, I watched them play out. This was 2020, keep in mind, March of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot around that alone. I was actually being very secretive, who I would tell, what I would tell. I was being extremely secretive because of fear that was instilled within me during this experience. And that if I didn't comply in a certain way, I would not be able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
In this experience, friends and family were threatened also. And basically, I was told intuitively, or telepathically, I was told that if I didn't comply, that I would not be allowed to survive. And so I went through my own very deep journey around all of that, because I'm a very strong, stubborn individual. And I said, no, that's not acceptable. I won't accept it. And I didn't. And here I am. What I hadn't mentioned is they called in my family to tell me goodbye. They said, there's no way she's going to survive. She won't survive this. I had 80%
March
of
2020.
Yes, March of 2020.
Okay.
And I had 80% of my small intestines removed.
Okay.
So even if there was a chance of survival, it would be with a feeding tube and as so forth.
Yeah.
Which is not how that happened.
No, you're climbing mountains today.
I'm climbing mountains today.
Literally.
And it's not my first time of coming through something. It's just the most close to death, I would say. But I have had other experiences in my life where I have surpassed what the medical field has told me I could do. So I remember making the decision to come back. And I remember saying, okay. And I spent the next year living life 100% to the fullest. I was never afraid, even when I woke up, and I went through an extreme amount of pain and therapy. And I literally learned the art of being. I would lay still and stare at a wall for hours upon days. And I was at complete, absolute peace. I was in complete harmony. And I had a knowing deeper than I ever had before. And I knew it was all absolute. I'll just use, my language, absolute truth. The story that really is ready to be shared even more so, though, is that even though I knew several things to be such absolute truth, I spent a year asking, why am I here? Why did I come back? What is the great big thing that everybody keeps telling me I came back for? I'm not finished, so I came back for this. What is it? Why is it happening?
Yeah. You're expecting fireworks to go off and go, this is why you're here. Yeah.
Absolutely. Where's the big theatrics? Exactly. And I was still traveling full. I had already started, I was traveling full time. I was loving life. I was not unhappy. I was so fulfilled in the state, the art of being. I was so fulfilled. Yet society would give me continuous opportunities to that theory, if you will. What really is what really is what you call truth? What really is this place you understand like you've never understood before, and you don't know how to articulate it, but you know how to be it. You know how to be it and live it, and you do every day. And so over time, I've recently, almost at the 3-year mark, in the last couple of months, especially the last couple of weeks, and I knew I had to get to the coast. It was very strong calling. It wasn't going to let up. But what happened is I just basically came back to a remembering of everything that I came forth with from that experience, and have a even stronger understanding and application of that. And I think it's going to be coming through me for quite some time in words and ways to share and express that. So I felt called to say, hey, let's talk. I don't know any I have a lot of information that's still swirling around in there
in your head. Yeah.
But I think having the conversation about the art of being, the state of being, and even people telling me pretty consistently, oh, but you still have to take action. You can't just be. And my journey through that and what that means.
That is, so you and I briefly talked, and it's so interesting that this is coming up in this conversation and that you reached out, because I've really been questioning the different levels of being. Like, am I really being when I just sit still and just be mindful, just pay attention to the birds that I hear, and how far out in the field can I hear, and what am I hearing, and where is that coming from? And then just being grateful of the beauty of nature and all of that, and being mindful. And then, versus, is that really being, or do I really need to be in a meditative state of nothingness to be in being? But then now you're talking about another aspect of, and something I question often, is how do I just be and trust and surrender versus do or go make things happen? And it's as a person, like in my profession, where it's that traditional success model, success measured by numbers and units and volume dollars and how many families you help every month. I've tried to reframe so much of my life, but yet still live in this life that is a high productive sales role, that sometimes I almost feel like a hypocrite, because I don't feel like I fully understand what being means, but yet I still feel like that's where I go for grounding and centering and allowing me to continue to move forward and still be healthy and thriving in this business at, going to be 53 years old. I've not been in the business that long. So, for someone who isn't in a lifestyle where they feel being is easy, or even something that they could put into their life on a consistent basis because they're so busy doing, can you speak to that? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. I do. And
there's a lot to unpack in that whole conversation.
There is. And I really appreciate you sharing that and the questions, because it's unpacking is a word I do use often, because there's so many depths of what we could discuss around that. But I want to say that the strongest thing coming through is that, and you definitely understand this and do this and speak to this often in all of your in all of your engagements is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, we are ever shifting our mindset. And you used another word I use all the time with every single client and probably conversation is reframe.
Mm-hmm.
So allowing ourselves to continue to reframe, and even I say the word often, I'll be in the middle of a sentence and I'll use a word that maybe I think I don't really feel in harmony with that. That doesn't feel aligned. Let me reframe that. And they'll just look at me, and it gives people permission. You can do it in any moment. You don't have to, but it really comes down to the judgments that have been so instilled on us that we think it needs to look this way or that way.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be a very structured environment in my field, but my personality needs to be, or my being needs to be very fluid. It's just this way. And I will tell you, for years before I got into more holistic healing and coaching and so forth, I was adamant that my personal life and my business life would be completely separate. I did not have a concept of how that could all be married and become one. And I only bring that up to tie into what you said, is it really all is. We're blending and marrying that. We're not trying to separate one from the other, nor are we trying to say, well, I prefer this one's good, or I don't prefer that one's bad. We are blending and marrying all of our experiences. And one of the big ahas I've had lately is I've worked for quite some time with moving from a dualistic consciousness, meaning this or that, meaning right or wrong, or
off or on,
good or bad, or exactly So I've gotten this word for years before I really pieced it together, is that it really is a trinity. So you always have that in between, and that, to me, the harmony, the in between, the balance, that's where we are aiming, if you will, to allow that to all blend. Rather than, I've been saying lately more like hard edges are dissolving. And I can use my example again from when I had to separate my parts of me, and I don't do that anymore. I mean, what you see is what you get in any situation. And how many of us can say that? And I say that with a positive, empowering, not saying you don't do that. We do. So many people in my world have stepped into that. I am who I am. I just watched last night your interview with Oliver White. You know who you are. You're going to be that. There's always growth and expansion and further development, but it's all one. And so to me, it's really about that trinity that, you might have this side and this side, but it's coming to that middle way, or that alignment and allowing it to blend.
Well, and I think too, giving yourself permission without any judgment at all to break the mold. Like I was at a dinner a couple of weeks ago, and it was with top producers and mainly in my industry, but just top producers in general. And that's where people really, when you introduce yourself, you were introduced, hey, this is Michelle Castle, and she's like top 1% in the United States, blah, 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 blah. And how many families did you help last year? And I just looked at him and said, I don't know. I no longer define my success and my happiness by a number. I can't tell you that. All I know is that I enjoyed everybody I worked with last year, and I'm having a good time. And it's no, but you got to know. No, I really don't know. And I really don't aspire to count, because numbers aren't feelings to me. You know what I mean? So, but to give yourself permission to say that, where it doesn't look like I'm not being reckless in how I run my business. I do know the numbers that matter, which is, how am I going to take care of my team, and how am I going to make sure that I have the ability to serve my clients at the level that I want to serve them at. I'm not reckless just because I've chosen to define success differently. So
Yes.
it still felt really, it's taken several years of that to be confident saying that out loud. I don't know. And I really am not measuring my success by that number.
Yes. And that statement right there is so much of what I've talked about, these 3 years of I haven't used that word yet, but a vacillation of, but I know this to be truth. And I know that I am 100% fulfilled, successful, at peace, in harmony, all of these things we could say when we're there, but yet it's so innate and ingrained. I want to say, not innate. It's so ingrained within us to be so influenced by our environment. And even when I am pretty strong, I used the word sovereignty when I awoke from my coma, is one of the many, but I was just like, I have arrived to sovereignty. Nobody can influence me now, these kind of things. And that was truth for a while. But over time, I have seen how I might go, well, they're probably right. I need to do more. I can't just be, and I would start kind of deviating from what I knew to work as a creator, as a manifester. And I say that about everybody. That is what we are here
Everybody
for.
has.
Are creating. And as creators, then the manifestation is the outpicturing of that. And what we are able to witness that we have created, so to speak. And the art of being and what that entails in creation. It does not mean, I had to come to an understanding. It doesn't mean I sit remotely in the woods, completely off grid and offline all the time, and this is all I'm going to do. I mean, there's still a life to live. And the life that you're living can have the art of being present and mindful. And what you said to me is a beautiful example of that, is that, okay, I have a different way I now define success. And that's been through a process of reframing and reprioritizing and so forth that we do for ourselves. So I don't subscribe to someone else or some other authority telling me what success is. And that's not saying anything mean or judgmental or critical towards others and their definition of that. I just say, this is how I resonate with that, or how I align with success. And I think what you shared is a beautiful measure, if you will, of success. That's a beautiful measure, is how you feel and how fulfilled and enlivened you are by what you do. And the relationships that you experience through that as well.
Yeah, the relationships that change when your focus changes onto feelings versus a chase of the number. It's the dopamine chase of a number that just gets you on this rat race versus living in the feeling and just being present in the moments. It's a mindset. It's a mindset shift.
It is. And, even something I shared with you the other day, I believe on Messenger, was that I don't really approach what I do as just mental health by any means. It's a holistic approach. But if you really were to say, if somebody asked me, which I have happened on occasion, what is the one thing you could get to the crux of it the most in your healing journey? And I'm always answer, it's your mind, it's your mental body, it's your mindset. And if your mental health is not being approached and you're not allowing yourself to reframe and reprioritize and redefine all of this, if you're not allowing some malleability in that, that alone can cause some pretty extreme mental duress.
Well, and when I
You're
posted
hard
that,
defining it.
yes, exactly. And what I meant, and I think I posted that in the private Facebook group. So if you as a listener are not in that group and like to be, you just need to, it's the Can Be podcast. It's a private group though. So our
Yes, I am.
I think that that's where that came from. Maybe, yeah, that's where it came from.
Yes.
But what I have been trying to give more emphasis or spotlight or give permission for people to have the conversation more than anything is that it's okay to work on your mental health. And like as an example, in my office, people know it is perfectly fine if they send me a message and said, for my mental health, I really need to take some time off this afternoon and go to the park and swing, or just go experience some sunshine or whatever it is. And they know that I know that that is just as important as staying home whenever you don't feel well physically, because it will manifest itself physically if you don't acknowledge that that is important. So yes, I am all about mindset, but I think that we need to be more aware of our mental health as well. And mindset is part of our mental health. I mean, it's all intertwined.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's just, I think that so much of anxiety and some of the depression and some of the things that we are dealing with, yes, I do agree that there's chemical deficiencies, and I am not at all licensed or qualified to be giving any advice. But I do know that more focus and permission given to talk about and to experience what it means for you personally to have harmony and balance in your mental health as well as your physical is super important.
It is. And it really is the allowing and accepting, because again, those hard, rigid, defined lines in any capacity of our life really can take us down a deep spiral of the mental capacity. And I don't, this doesn't come up much at all in my journey, but as a young adult, I went through extreme manic depression. I was suicidal. I went through things that they just don't come up in my world. I don't think about them. I don't give it any energy. I don't tell the story, so to speak. But my point is, we all have had experiences we can reflect upon, and we can look and say, oh my gosh, look how far I've come now, because I have focused on it intentionally. That's, I've had intention, the power of intention in all of this. And if your intention is to stay rigid within expectations or measurements you've been given that maybe you don't align with, things like that, it can definitely cause a strong spiraling. And yes, I too am very aware and not trained or certified by any means in that, but of the chemical imbalances and deficiencies. And that's why I work at the holistic level, the whole mind, body, spirit, all of it, and people will come to me and say, I understand you do everything holistically and that you're going to want me to get off all these medications, and and they come in with that expectation. And I say, I want you to use what is going to work for you in your journey of healing. And if and when you're ready to no longer be on those, which I have always witnessed happens, every client, every single one of them ends up shifting the way, the process, and the tools and the methods by which they are currently going, when they start coming, that they're going through in their healing journey. And that's what it's all about. We're all, really supporting. I liked, I've been using the word serve a lot. And that again, I saw that interview yesterday, or listened and watched both with Oliver White, is that I've been talking for a while now about, I got a message last year really strongly, about a year and a half ago, that said, I am in service of service as service. And the as service showed me to mean that's the start, the art, the state of being. By me being all of who and what I am in that moment, which will continually to evolve and change, but all of who and what I am, and being that to me is what the being is, not a particular state of my mind or a particular state of my physical body, or, I need to sit this way and meditate this way and think this way, or not think and get out of thought. For me, it really is being all of who and what you are and allowing that to come into a harmonious, aligned state that fulfills you and allows you to really shine who and what you are and share that with the world. That is service. And of course, there are many other definitions of service, and it goes beyond. I'm not saying that's all I do is just be me. I do love to serve. But if I'm not in an allowing state and an acceptance state of who I am and where my differences might be, and be okay with that, be okay with, this is who I am today. I, no apology for who I was then. I mean, you've talked about that often, and that's a powerful mindset right there. Just to give yourself enough grace and compassion and permission to say, there is no judgment. There's no judgment.
There is no judgment. And everything that we experience in life is teaching us something new. So, of course, every day we're a different person than we were yesterday because of the experience of yesterday that we're going to use as we are being of service today.
Absolutely.
So, no judgment, no, just, it's all part of the experience.
It really is. And that is the biggest thing I tell people in whatever capacity I'm having conversation with them in, is just be gentle with yourself. You don't need to have these rigid expectations, judgments, criteria, structures, be really, and this is a whole nother conversation that we both have with people in our conversation, is really, there are many different tools and systems out there in which you can get to know who you are. And those are all very powerful. And I came to understand recently, I went, oh my gosh, all you're doing is learning who you have been. And of who you have been. And I'm not minimizing that, because I do use these languages and systems and tools, and they're very powerful in helping people learn who they are. But the more we learn who we are, the more we learn who we're not.
Right.
And that's just as powerful. So learning who we have been and what parts of that make us shine and thrive and what parts don't. And that's that, giving yourself permission to just reframe.
So and this is a totally another conversation, but this just really, I've got to talk to you about an idea that I had based on a conversation that I had with Janice of creating that safe space to just get quiet and just be and help remember who, like you said it all, remember all of who I am and come from that place, just creating that safe place for people to all come together in nature and just get quiet and be, so they can remember, reflect, and remember who they are and what part of that makes them unique and how that experience has taught them who they are today.
Absolutely.
There's a special place in the woods I want to talk to you more about, maybe a safe place for people to just come and experience that. And I think removing everybody from the busy life that they live and creating that space that sacred space for them to just pause and reflect.
Yes, I definitely want to talk to you about that, because I mean, I understand that's why I live the way I live now. I very much know this is going to lead to so much bigger things for so many people. And the connections of who, what, where, when, how, I don't question anymore. I'm just like, it's just going to show up, and I'm just going to, I'm just going to honor it, because it's very easy for people to go, well, how are you serving if you're out in the middle of nowhere? Like, you have no idea what I'm doing.
I have no idea.
You have no idea. I mean, I am down in the dirt crying at times going, why, like, what, and then I do it, and I come to this, because I mean, there is nothing that will show you your rawness like nature, like living in nature as nature. There is nothing.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I just have to tell the audience, like, when you are in nature, I mean, like at the level you're talking about, there's not even flushing toilets, you guys.
No, I mean, the stories
of living in nature.
And people say, Tim says this to me. We said this yesterday. I don't know any other women in my life that would live the way I live. Like, I don't know. Like,
I know I can go rough it, but I got to have running water and a flushing toilet to rough it. So that's not really roughing it.
But that's okay. And I always hear, no, he even said, you wouldn't have done this 3 years ago. No, I wouldn't have.
Maybe because when I go foraging out, not foraging like a real forager, which is another thing I'd like to learn.
Oh, I'm so drawn to that.
Oh, me too. And I really, I'm trying to get a friend of mine who is an incredible forager on a podcast, but she's not agreed yet. However, that's another whole conversation. But when I'm in the woods and I'm like, this feels very comfortable. Like, I've been here before. I think I could live in the woods, but I would have to leave. This is a different experience, and I'm not in the mindset for that right now. So yeah, I love all of your stories. Listen, I know you've got to run, I've got to run, and we've got some more cool stuff to talk about, because some things have just come together in the last. You reached out to me at the same time that Janice had reached out, and I see some things coming together. So hopefully we can have a conversation soon.
I would love that. And I have seen this for quite some time. And every time I've tried to embark on conversation, there's that whole, I'm just going to be, and it'll just, it'll come to me. So I'm definitely ready and enthused and excited about it. For sure.
So we may have some opportunities for us to maybe even meet some of our audience today, or not audience. Yeah, I guess that's the right word. Whatever it is, listeners who would. Yeah. I'm not good at labels. So friends.
Yes.
Some of our friends.
I love it. I love it.
Thank you. It's always such a pleasure. And how long are you in town? You can tell me later, so maybe we can meet up, because we got birthday plans for your mom too.
Okay, a couple of weeks for sure. Okay. While we're doing this build out and we're waiting on parts and weather and all that, but a couple of weeks I'll be here, and then I'm probably going to be gone a couple of months and then back. So, okay.
Well, we got to get a birthday picnic planned for your mother. So,
okay.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for hanging in there, and golly, just being part of this really cool community. Again, there is a Facebook private group. So if you're not in that and you really want to engage and have more conversation around mindset and just some inspiration each morning, then it's just the Canby Podcast on Facebook. If you send a request, I will review that request and get back to you. Hope you have a wonderful day, and please share these episodes. If there's an episode that resonates or you think would resonate with a friend, please feel free to share, follow, and leave some reviews. Thank you so much. And thank you, Terri, for your time today.
Thank you very much. It was such a pleasure as always.
Have a great day.